Hello, I am back, and this is the Slay the Gray live stream, hobby hangout, whatever you want to call it. My name's Sam. Welcome back to Big Nerds Wargaming, and today, just gotta fix my camera. Today, I'm gonna be painting some bases and terrain that I 3D printed as part of gonna be using in a narrative campaign here on the channel. A narrative series, I should say. Doing some narrative play, and you may have guessed it, it's going to involve some Necrons. So I printed off some of these cool Necron style bases from a terrain pack I picked up a while back, and they're kind of, Necron themed, so I was going to use them as objective markers. So I was going to paint them up real quick so I have something to use, and then I also have some of these Necron monolith or obelisks. I don't know what you call these pylons. All those words mean something in 40k, but they're obelisks of sorts. So yeah, just gonna get right started on that. So I'll start with the bases, and I think I'm gonna do something pretty simple with these. That's just gonna involve some dry brushing and a little bit of edge highlighting, and then layer on some glow and whatnot. So I'm just going to start with, first of all, I'm going to take some Abaddon Black, some Corvus Black, and Incubi Darkness. So just begin, I'm going to take Abaddon Black and paint over the primed areas just so we get a nice, rich, dark black color. Get some of that on my palette with just a messy brush. A little bit of water. Just going to go over all of these black stone areas with Abaddon Black. Get that nice dark coat over the primer. I'll go from there. Because these are black, so I want them to look nice. If I was in a real rush, I would skip the step where I'm just painting everything black again over the primer, but I have a way I paint blackstone, and I want to try to replicate this as much as possible. I may not go this route for the obelisks because they're kind of big. That might take a while, so I may just leave these with the black primer that I sprayed on earlier. I also printed these with FDM using black filament. So they're kind of black to begin with, which is nice because that way if I, don't cover the primer well enough with my spray can, it's black underneath and it'll look okay. Just going to go over all the blackstone areas with Abaddon Black real quick. And then we'll make these look a little bit more interesting. So I mentioned, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Sam. I do hobby-related content, miniature wargaming, Warhammer 40k mostly, but I do branch out into other miniature games, tabletop games, outside of the Games Workshop realm. I do painting videos, terrain crafting, battle reports, and all the like. I stream every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time. So if you stumbled upon this after the fact or you want to watch this live, you can catch me on Tuesday evenings here on YouTube, and where you can watch me and hang out and chat, and we can talk shop and all that good stuff. it's a fun time. In addition to that, a new video comes out usually about once every other week. Sometimes more frequent than that, but at a minimum, I try to do at least every other week. And there, if you like more narrative-themed content, as far as battle reports and the like go, then this is the right channel, because that is what I'm like to focus on. I do some kind of more competitive match play stuff here and there, but I do want to focus more on narrative stuff because I really enjoy that. Setting up cool tables with lots of really cool terrain, which you just can't really do with competitive play as much, because everything's got to be, you know, symmetrical and balanced in a way. I like to play asymmetrical and, you know, have a lot of interest on the table. That's how I enjoy it, at least. So, I mentioned earlier starting a new narrative series based on the latest Warhammer 40k 10th edition Crusade supplement, Pariah Nexus. So, gonna have some Necrons in the Pariah Nexus, collecting Blackstone fragments and fighting off the Interlopers and the Imperium and other Xenos. It should be a good time. So the first part of that is coming up on the channel shortly. Probably by the end of this week, it should be up and live, so stay tuned for that. Alright, so I'm just waiting for this paint to finish drying. So while I do that, I can start on these, I think. I may be jumping around. I'm just going to grab some lead belcher. Actually, no. I'm going to do Corvus Black dry brush on these. I'm going to grab my big makeup brush, since I'm painting terrain here. I'm going to work this on the palette. Over here I got my paper towel, so I'm just going to get a good amount off, but not too much, because I'm going to build up some colors. So I'm just going to go over all the Blackstone areas with this Corvus Black. The pylon and on the top as well. It's kind of like an overbrush versus a dry brush. It's going to try to... The goal is to try to break up some of this blackness all around the whole piece. Give it a little bit more depth of color. Visual interest. Evening, Sam. Evening, David. Welcome back. Today I'm painting some terrain I 3D printed. Necrons. Well, you can actually see the difference on the stream. So I'm just going over the black base coat with Corvus Black in a big makeup dry brush. Also painting some bases, which I'm going to be using as objective markers. Kind of preparing for some future episodes coming up in a new narrative series, which the first episode is going live later this week. It's a Crusade-based series. Not full-on Crusade rules, but we're playing some Crusade missions and kind of assigning some arbitrary upgrades to some characters to make it kind of interesting. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. So we got a few episodes in the works for that. And like I said, the first one's coming out this week, so stay tuned for that. These bases aren't quite... Well, this one's not quite fully dry, but I have a secret for that. Hair dryer. Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out. There we go. Much better. Yeah, I really like Crusade. It's a lot of fun. I like the asymmetricalness of it and the narrative opportunities as your force gets upgraded and you play these missions. The missions are pretty fun too. Pretty different than your regular match play stuff. Good to mix it up. So I'm just gonna go over these Blackstone Necron bases with this Corvus Black. With this big old makeup brush. Just going over the whole thing. Don't have to be neat at this stage. You know, I was worried that these bases, with the FDM printer, you'd see some really bad layer lines. There's a couple where you can see, but I'll be covering up some of that with some texture ground paint. But after painting a couple layers, or the first layer of paint on here with the primer, it actually covers up quite well. So that's cool. I do have a resin printer, but I was in a little bit of a rush, and getting these printed with the FDM would be a little bit quicker. So I did that. Plus less to clean up afterwards. I'm running a crusade for my son-in-law, his cousin, and myself. It's interesting. I've got them set up for a bit of a lopsided fight coming up. Necrons, 1k points, and Tyranids, 1200. Nice. Well, that sounds like fun. Crusade's always fun. I did some crusading in 9th edition with my gaming group, and we all had a lot of fun. So, back by popular demand, we're doing it again this year. So, we're kicking off our crusade later this month, and I'm going to be playing Tyranids for that army. I'm going to try to do a Vanguard Invader Swarm, so I have to finish my other Von Ryan's Leapers and my other Lictor, and also my Death Leaper before that kicks off. So, I may be painting some of that here on the stream in the coming weeks before that starts. Trying to clean off this brush a bit. Alright. I'm making a mess. Should have grabbed some more paper towel before I started. Alright. Corvus Black is applied. So now, I'm going to start working on these inner glowy bits. And that, I'm just going to start layering on some Corax White. Lictor, I hardly knew her. Looks like you've got the FDM dialed in pretty tight, which is nice. I'm not a big fan of the striations. Yeah. I mean, you can see, if you get up kind of close, you can see the layer lines. I printed these two next to each other, so it was doing a little bit of switching back and forth. So I got, you know, some of these boogers going down here, but this filament is also a different one that I usually use. It's okay. It was a little bit cheaper, so I was able to buy some more of it in bulk, but it definitely strings a bit more than I would like, but it's good enough for terrain, as you don't get too picky with terrain. It's kind of just background anyways. But yeah, miniatures and more detailed stuff, I'll definitely go with my resin printer for that. Alright, so Corax White, I'm going to get some of that on the palette, using kind of a smaller brush here. And mix in some water to get it nice and smooth. And I'm going to just apply it on the inside here. And I'm kind of making a mess, but that's okay. I will go back and clean that up. Just want to get the inside of these glyphs and crevasses with that white paint. Because we all know why. The Tesseract glow is coming up next. So I bought a pack of Necron quote unquote themed terrain from one creator, and it came with a bunch of these different bases. So thought I'd print these off and use these as objective markers for the narrative campaign Crusade series that we're doing. A little bit more on theme instead of those, you know, generic objective markers. Oops, I just made a mess. And I'm filming an episode later this week, so I gotta have these ready in time for that. So many projects, so little time. Just gonna get this in the crack here. They do look nice as well as themed. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of this stuff. It looks pretty good. I had some other Necron terrain. It was all right. I have like a big pyramid that I printed off. That'll probably be making an appearance in the series at some point. But this other stuff I got, very well detailed, and I think it's a little bit better than the other stuff I had originally. So I'm currently printing more of this. There's like some ruins and some other cool buildings. So I'm gonna try to print some up and paint it up and use it in the narrative series. But some of it might have to wait till the next batch of episodes. And I'm just looking here. So this is like layers of blackstone. So I'm just gonna get this area here with the white. Yeah, I got some stringing going on in here that I didn't clean up. That's okay. It's just terrain. I'm not gonna sweat it. I would love to paint everything with high detail and precision, but it's just not realistic. Otherwise, nothing would get done. So you kind of have to pick your battles. Pick your battles and make your concessions with your pile of shame. It's your show, sisters, Sam. You paint, sisters, whatever you want to paint. Sisters, we're here for you, sisters. Right? I should probably paint my sisters sometime. I think I mentioned it before. I'm one rhino short of the combat patrol. They are a cool army. I think at one point I will get those painted up, and probably start collecting them. I also want to do a Chaos Army. I think I'm going to be doing Black Legion at some point, and possibly Demons of Corn. Then, of course, I have so much Gene Stealer Cult I need to paint up now. And everything else. See, this is my problem. I want to branch out to some other games because I really have fun with other games like Armada, Battlefleet Gothic, and Kill Team. But there's just so many armies that I want to collect and paint in this one game that's kind of sucking up all my time. I think it'd be also cool to maybe play Age of Sigmar, I don't know. Or maybe the old world Warhammer. Old school. Such is the struggle. Just gonna get these ready for the Tesseract Glow. And they'll start to look really nice. Oh, that one's really sloppy. To be fair, a lot of Sigmar minis look really tempting. Yes, they do. It's like they have awesome models, stupid lore, and the gameplay, I don't know. I have to play more games of it before I can make a final judgment on it, but a lot of it just seems like meet in the middle and fight in melee. Which I suppose you could argue that's how Warhammer Old World works, but I feel like there's a little bit more strategy and depth in that game at least. Alright, now I gotta clean up all my mistakes. I'm just gonna do that with some Black Templar. Neaten up around where I have too much overspill. The old world, you cast magic, then meet in the middle, and then fight. Yes. That was such a fun game. And then there's like the whole strategy of, timing out your movements and charges. And there's just like a lot of random stuff. I remember like a lot of all the scatter dices and misfires and the tables you'd roll on. That was all really fun. Like, I'm gonna shoot my cannon, but first, will it explode in my face? I don't know. Sadly, I think modern Warhammer, they've kind of moved away from a lot of that. And you only really get that now with orcs. Instead of it being more of like a core game component, game system component. I do miss scatter dice, though. Yeah, like bringing in a drop pod, and then you have to roll to see where it scatters, and it's not just going to land where you want it to. That was so cool. They should bring that back. Of course, though, with the internet and their huge focus on competitiveness, that they'd be like, oh, drop pods are, they're not in vogue anymore. They're too unpredictable, blah, blah, blah. People wouldn't want to run them. There's just not enough narrative players out there anymore, sadly. So that's part of the reason why I want to try to focus more on narrative stuff, because I think it's the best way to play. It's a lot of fun. And there's too much focus on competitive play anyways. I like competitive, but narrative is more fun to me. Better get rid of some of these strings that are cramping my style. Yeah, and then there's the artillery dice and the scatter dice, all that stuff. Super fun. Okay, now I'm going to break out the old Tesseract glow for these bases. What is going on with the focus? There we go. Gotta give this a good shake. Still haven't gotten the vortex mixer yet. Maybe next time. Where's my junk brush? Is this my junk brush? Yes. Always save your junk brushes. They always have a use. I like to use my old crappy brushes for these harsh paints like the metallics, when I don't have to do precision work, and some of these technical paints. Just gonna jab this on the crack there. Do, 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 do. Wow, they're already looking awesome. Necrons, they're so simple, yet so cool. I didn't think I'd actually like Necrons as much as I do. I kind of only started collecting them because they came in the Indomitus box. And I just started building up the force so I'd have another army to play with like a friend or something. But then it kind of grew on me. Now I have like a pretty large Necron army. But definitely Tyranids are still my favorite. And will be my favorite, I think. The Necrons are a nice mix-up from the usuals. I love this Tesseract glow. This never gets old. Just brings the whole thing to life. Go with what you enjoy. Yep, that is always the advice. Or like when people are trying to figure out what to collect for their army. They want to know, oh, what's good right now? Don't worry about that. Just buy what you think is cool. Build it in a way that you think it's cool. And it may not be meta now, but it'll be good at some point. And you'll be happy that you have stuff that you like. Because competitive play gets way too much attention. And most of us normal people don't even play at that level. And it's just causing a lot of unnecessary stress. What was the mechanic that the assault cannon had where you had a chance to jam or explode? Yeah, I remember the Empire army. They had that Hellblaster volley gun for fantasy, and you'd roll on the artillery dice, and one of them, it was a misfire, but then you'd roll on the chart, and it was like a good misfire where it fires off the maximum amount of shots for the remaining of the barrels, and like they automatically hit. So you kind of go out in a blaze of glory and take out something that you're shooting at. I had that happen once in a game, and it was pretty awesome. Or else it just, misfires and blows up and nothing exciting happens. But I always like that randomness, that weird stuff that can happen. Alright, I'm going to do some object source glow. Object source lighting glow. I'm just going to do that with some warpstone glow. And I'm going to take focus. Come on. Bases keep going out of focus. Oops. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. That'll make it better. Alright, so I'm going to take some of this warpstone glow and get most of this off my brush. My paper towel here. And then I'm just going to do some dry brushing along the edge. Of course, this paint is a little wet still, so I'll do a different one. Alright, let's try that again. Just going to do some little circles around the Tesseract glow areas with this darker green. You know what? I don't like this brush. It's too flimsy. I'm going to use a smaller one that's actually meant for dry brushing. I had one. Where is it? Here it is. It's my little Army Painter dry brush. Works pretty well for precision dry brushing. Just going to go in little circles around the crack here. So it's going to be a pretty subtle effect. I already did that one. But it'll just add a little bit of greeny glow around those crevices. Oops, I got it in the crack, which I didn't want to do there. Gotta go back and forth across it, perpendicular, not parallel. Oops. I'll have to go back and touch that up a little bit. Oh, I also missed a spot on this one. Missed the whole section. Right here. Sounds like a crazy moment. Yeah. Yeah, the cannon exploding. So this one's going to have a little bit more pronounced glow since these are bigger orbs. Like that. Alright, I'm going to clean off this dry brush. This green paint really stains. Alright. And then I'm going to go back and fix my mistakes. A little bit of white there, and we'll get a little bit of white in here. Missed this whole section right here. Alright, we'll let those dry, and now I'm going to do some edge highlighting, and by edge highlighting, I mean more dry brushing, because I think I can get away with just using a dry brush. So I'm going to do Incubi Darkness. No. Yeah, Incubi Darkness, I think. Don't want to go too light. This is black stone after all. So I get some of that on my dry brush. This is the regular Citadel dry brush. I like this one because it's got the wide bristles, so good for picking out detail like this. So I'm just gonna dry brush along these rigid edges here. Yeah, I may go a little bit lighter around these black stone fragments sticking up. And over here. It'd be cool to print off more of these bases for a custom army, or for my army, but I think if I was going to put these on miniatures, I would print these again in resin. But like I said, these are objective markers, so I'm not, too concerned about them looking amazing. Oh, there's like a skull on this one. I didn't notice that. I'll have to paint that skull. Fun. There's a recipe I use for skulls. It's pretty quick. It involves contrast paint. Yeah, Incubi Darkness, I think, is just a little too dark. I might have to go up to Thunderhawk Blue. Which I think I'm going to do real quick. And I'm not too worried about contaminating my paint here because this paint on this brush is pretty dry. But normally, I never double dip like that. But because I'm dry brushing, I'm not too worried. Let's come along with another pass here. Just kind of pick out those edges. And that looks a little bit more interesting. Now, if I was being a little bit neater, I'd be doing this some finer highlights with my smaller brush. But these are just bases for objective markers, so terrain. I get impatient when I paint terrain too. I just want it done. Because I don't know if I just like want to rush it or I get overwhelmed and I just want it done. I don't know. I try to find the quickest possible way to paint terrain. Because I'd rather be painting the other miniatures. I'm going to get the edges up here too. It's amazing though what you can do with some dry brushing though. Such a simple technique. It's so effective. Alright, dry brushing is done on those. Painting terrain is the pits. Yes. Although I've been doing a lot of it with my airbrush lately. And I find that that does help quite a bit. I was almost thinking about using my airbrush on these, but they're kind of small enough where, like these, you know, they're small enough where I think a brush still makes sense, but like big ruins and stuff, I airbrush base colors and then do some big swathing dry brushes on those and a good dirty wash with some cheap acrylic craft paint, watered down browns and blacks. That usually does the job for me. Alright, that brush is now clean, finally. Okay. Back with that Tesseract Glow, we're going to fix those spots I had to touch up. Real quick before moving on. There we go. You know, speaking of terrain, I feel like Games Workshop has not been making as much cool terrain as they used to. Or else, it seems like they're kind of slowly retiring their terrain. And I'm not sure what the logic is behind that. I mean, it's just not making them money. But I think it's a shame because their terrain is the coolest. It's amazing. Although, I suppose there's a lot of 3D printed stuff you can get now that is of the similar style and it looks pretty good. I don't know if tournament play is kind of messing up the way they make terrain, but I just feel like it's been slowly going away. Which is ironic because terrain is so important when you're playing the game. If you don't have enough terrain, the game kind of sucks. Yes, they do make some amazing terrain pieces. Yeah, I was really excited a while back in September. They were doing a made-to-order run of the Sky Shield landing pad and the Imperial Bastions. So I picked up a couple of those. And then they took forever to come. And they finally showed up a while back. And I got those painted up. So maybe seeing those in some new battle reports coming up. I always like to feature my new terrain. But pretty excited about those. Those are always fun. Alright, so my recipe for skulls is pretty simple. I like to do either white underneath or Wraithbone is another good color too. And then just use the Skeleton Horde contrast paint. And then after this, if you're feeling ambitious, you can go over with a dry brush of like wraith bone or a light bonish white color. But I'll probably just settle for the skeleton horde. This is a funny looking skull anyways because it's you can see all the layer lines on there. It's get it to focus. Yeah, it's not the prettiest of skulls. Kind of ugly when you get up close. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Okay, and now we got some like dirt and stuff on these bases, so I'm just gonna fill those in with some mud. I use some sterling mud, technical paint. Little trowel tool. Where are you? Digging in my jar of brushes. Can never find the one I'm looking for. Oh, of course, it's already out. All right. So this stuff, let's see, this one's got no dirt. This one's got some dirt. It's pretty much wherever those layer lines are for the dirt, I'll replace with some real dirt. Or the real good dirt, the texture paint dirt. It's the least I can do to make it look a little bit nicer. Oh, that already looks a million times better. And once this texture paint is applied, I'll leave it aside to dry, and I'll focus on these two obelisks. Get those painted up next. And then once these are all done, depending on what time it is, I will pick up where I left off on my Von Ryan's Leapers. I started painting those off camera last weekend, but they are nearly complete. I want to get them done. I need them for my Crusade army. I love this texture paint. Although it's like really easy to make yourself. Just some sand and some paint. But they should have done this a long time ago. Kind of gives you no excuse to not base your models. Or we can use the Big Dipper end. This one. Push it around with the little one. Oh. All right. Texture paint is applied. Figure out what paint scheme I want to do for my Imperial Knights. I just got the 8th edition Codex. I bought it on eBay for like 15 bucks. So I wanted it for the lore, for one, because I don't know much about Knights. I know the 8th edition Codexes are pretty great as far as lore goes. And I also wanted to look at their pictures and color guides, figure out what house I want to do for my Knights and what paint scheme. Some pretty cool ones. I think the white ones look cool, the green ones look cool, the blue ones look cool. Kind of analysis paralysis. Alright, so for this, I am going to do metallics first, I think. Some metallics in here I want to paint, so I'm going to do that with lead belcher. I'm going to move these bases off to the side so that they can dry. And we can zoom out a little bit. There we go. Alright. Gotta get this lead belcher really good shaking. Alright. Alright, so for the lead belcher, mix a little bit of water, a little bit of lead belcher. I'm gonna use a bigger brush here, and I'm gonna paint these thingies going up the side. Just to break up the black stone a little bit. Make it a little interesting. I suppose I could just cop out and it is black stone, just leave it black. I want to add some metallic details here and there. Since these terrain pieces have some pretty good detail on them. Make them look nice. And then down here, I'm gonna leave black, maybe. No, I'm gonna paint these middle sections here silver. Careful not to get it anywhere else. It's kind of hard to decide what stays black and what gets the metallic. I think that's a good start though. Get some more lead belcher on my palette. Alright, let's get this side. So this one we have here, I'm just going to leave those as is. Those are going to be some nice glowing orbs. But down here, this middle section, I want to get that with lead belcher. Because this is a black undercoat, I'm not worried too much about coverage for the lead belcher. A little bit of black showing underneath just kind of gives you a dirty metal look. So if I washed it with black Nuln oil or something. Alright, now I'm going to get this metallic spine thingy going down the side. Yes, painting terrain, the pits. Hopefully I can knock these out pretty quickly. Move on to something a little more fun. Alright, last bit of metal here on this one. Alright. Metallics done on there. Do I do metallics on this one? I think I will, however, I'm going to do them with some dry brushing. So I don't have to paint as much. So I'm going to do, let's do maybe Rune Lord Brass. That's Balthasar Gold. Where are you? Rune Lord Brass. Yeah. So for this one, I'm going to make it kind of like the Therakan Dynasty. The Rune Lord Brass dry brush. Kind of make it look like that coppery brass metal look. I think that might be cool. I'll give it a shot. So for this, I'm going to use another Army Painter dry brush. I picked up their dry brush set a while ago, and I am a fan. They're pretty nice. I mean, nothing too special about them, but they work well. All I gotta say. And I'm just going to get these kind of support parts with the Rune Lord brass. Trying not to get it on the actual Blackstone area. This particular pot I'm using is almost empty. That's okay, I have more. And by doing this with a dry brush, it kind of comes out looking weathered. And I can paint a lot of area pretty quickly. Because painting terrain sucks, and we want to get it done as quickly as possible. Although I'm sure there's some people out there that just love painting terrain. I'm not one of them. But I do want my terrain to look nice. So that's the predicament. Uh-oh, getting some on my Blackstone. I have to go back and touch that up. Right, and we'll get these 4 supports at the top here. Along with this kind of top edge trim piece. There we go. You know, I'm not even worried about touching up the black where I got a little... Oh, maybe right here I will. For the most part, I think that looks okay. It is just terrain. It is just terrain. Gotta keep telling myself that. It's only terrain. Okay. Let me quickly touch that up. I'm just going to use this brush here. Get a little bit of Abaddon black. And anywhere else I see some, this corner here. Just kind of dry brushing back over with this Abaddon black that's on my palette still. A little bit of neatening up work here and there. For the most part, I think I did okay. Last corner's a little dirty. This is a junky brush, so kind of really just jamming it in there. No worries, it's just a junk brush. Alright, now moving on to swap back to this guy. And we're going to start doing some of the orbs. The orbs of power. But first, I'm going to do my OSL dry brush. That'll be easier. So I'm going to do that with the Warpstone Glow. My little focused dry brush here. Just like the bases. Work that paint. Gonna get it all around those orbs. Just trying to get it spread around the outside of the crack. Look like the energy is kind of glowing from within. The object source lighting, OSL. This will look a little bit better once we get the primary color on here. But I think starting with the glow will be easier to achieve the effect. Starting outward here, working our way inward. I'm still kind of learning the right ways to do object source lighting. So pieces of terrain like this are perfect for experimenting. The techniques. So that way, when you want to do it on a miniature, you've had some practice and you can feel a little bit more confident in your abilities. So I like to experiment sometimes with terrain and try different things. See what works, see what doesn't work. Especially 3D printed stuff that you printed yourself, very low stress. Because if it's completely ruined, well, you can just spray it black and try again. Or chuck it. Or just not worry about it because it's just terrain. And, learn from your mistakes or whatever, whatnot. Practice. It's all about practice. I'm all about practicing. I'm no painting expert. I like to pick up new tricks and try them out and share what I've learned. Alright, that's already looking pretty good with the glow. I like that. Now, we're going to make it really glow. I'll have to get this brush cleaned off. Sometimes when the brush is really stained like that, I like to grab a little Tupperware container, such as this one, and some airbrush cleaner or rubbing alcohol. That works really well too. Some airbrush cleaner, and then just kind of really work the brush in that liquid. Like Elysian green, moot green especially, is a color that stains these brushes really bad. But you can usually get a lot of it out with some airbrush cleaner. Oh, this is a stubborn one. Very stubborn. I think I might need some alcohol. Where are you? Isopropyl alcohol. Just throw some of that in there. Damn, man, good stuff. Thank you. Really work that paint out of the brush. still coming out when I wipe it on here. Oh yeah, I just got a bunch of it out there. It's a little bit better. May just have a green tint to it for a while. But yeah, that usually works well. We're getting most of it out. My one clean piece of paper towel. Because I didn't grab any more for the upstairs. And then I just like to keep until I see that the paint is mostly gone. There's still a little bit of green in there, but I think it's probably clean enough. But if you're ever dry brushing with white, you want to make sure that your brush is going to be really clean. Otherwise, it's going to tint that white paint and it's going to screw up your whole thing. Could try some this brush shampoo. I think I might do that. It's because I really want this cleaned off. It's bothering me how green this dry brush is. It's supposed to be white. Yeah, we're making some progress now. It's coming out. All right. I think that's good enough. Good enough. Okay, now we're gonna make these orbs glow. We do have the top of this one here, which I'm gonna have to paint. Ooh, that's a really bad layer line. If I can smooth this out just a little bit. Hobby knife. There, I got the biggest, the most egregious glob off. I'll have to just settle for this, I guess. All right. Let's use a big brush. Save some time. Have a big brush. Where are you? This big brush will do. Oop. All right. Back to the Corax white. Let's get this top dome painted. Get that ready for the Tesseract glow. And then once this is all done, I'm going to go around again with the Incubi Darkness and Thunderhawk Blue dry brushing just to kind of bring out some of the edges on the blackstone on these pylons or obelisks, whatever you want to call them. And I think that'll look, it'll make them look a little bit better. And kind of hide from the fact that these are somewhat ugly 3D printed terrain pieces. The airbrush also helps when you're painting 3D printed stuff, because you get that nice smooth transition as the paint goes on. Whereas when you dry brush this stuff, it really accentuates those layer lines, unfortunately. All right, so we're gonna get these orbs. I'm not going to worry too much about getting full coverage. I'll get a little bit of water in there to make this paint a little bit more agreeable to work with. There we go. Yeah, a little bit of thinness on the brush. You can apply it easier and faster. It just kind of flows around what you're painting, instead of kind of clumping and globbing. Just want to get a nice strong coat of white for all these orbs, so they will glow like none other. I like that they changed up the pattern between orbs and the spine thing, because then I don't have to paint as many orbs. Alright, starting from the top, working our way down. Yeah, then you can kind of get into a flow and paint faster and faster. I also find that if you paint just in general, either daily or like every other day, at least once a week, you'll find that you can paint much quicker. As I say, as I make a mistake. But you do get some more brush control, and you can paint and crank stuff out quicker. Just the repetition, less time between painting sessions helps with that. I ran a painting challenge with my gaming group where we tried to paint every single day for 30 days. You had to paint a minimum of 15 minutes each day. I mean, you could paint as long as you wanted, but in order for it to count, it had to be 15 minutes. And then we also did not count prep time, so that's like assembling and priming, because this is supposed to be about painting, not building. And a lot of the guys did most, if not all, of the days, and you know, we all got a lot done. It was really cool to see. I was gonna make a video about it, but I never did. Maybe I'll do that again in the future, another painting challenge, and maybe make a little video about it. I have a bunch of ideas for videos, but then it's just, you know, finding the time to actually do them and edit them and get them up. So I kind of have to pick the ones that I really want to do. All right. We have the Corax white applied. Now, let's do... I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing first, I think. Save that Tesseract glow for last. I'm going to do Incubi Darkness. This dry brush. Work around all these cool digital jaggedy edges. Also being sure to catch these hard edges too. Ugh, cover up some of this nasty 3D printing artifacts. This side's full of boogers. You can see all the little booger dots all down here and a bunch of them over here. Luckily, it kind of works for this terrain. We'll say that they're little nanoscarabs or something. That's definitely not something you want to see when you're printing. This is the, I don't know if tempting me to steal my son-in-law's Necrons and paint them. You know, they do paint very fast. They're a nice, easier army to paint. There's a lot of easy schemes, I should say. You can make any army as hard as you want to paint. But Necrons, there's a lot of things you can do to make them look good. That doesn't require as much effort as, say, you know, Sisters. or other armies with lots of detail. I just need a little bit more of this Incubi Darkness. Yeah, the designer of these models did a really good job. I think the creator's name is Sacramund Sacramundus or Sacramund? Can't remember. But I got them on myminifactory.com. There's a lot of really cool stuff on there. But yeah, a lot of that creator's terrain is really cool looking. Just gonna kind of messily go over here. Get the hard corner. Real quick. Because painting terrain sucks and we want to get it over with. All right. Get all the hard edges here. All right, now we're going to move on to Thunderhawk Blue. Going real quick here. Because the end is in sight. I can see it. Now I'm racing to the finish. Which can be a good and a bad thing. Sometimes moving fast, mistakes can be made. And make sure I get these hard edges, because that's what I'm most worried about, or concerned about. Now we're going to get right along here, the inner edge. Going to do a little pass. All right. I think we are ready for some sweet, sweet Tesseract glow. There's one more thing I could do on this one, which I will do real quick. Just because I think it will help sell the look. Once I get this blue out of this brush here. Got my cleaning solution still here, so I'll use that. Oh yeah. A lot of it's coming out of this brush now. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Alright. I'm gonna grab need a dry brush. A dry brush. A dry brush that's dry. My dry brush is a little wet. This one's dry. This is another makeup brush. That's the trick. Amazon. Buy some cheap makeup brushes. You got a bunch of dry brushes. I'm gonna be using Synaptic Alloy. Not that one though, because this one's already opened. I'm just gonna do a little bit with this one. Get most of that off the brush. Then on this guy, I'm just going to do some top down focused dry brushes. Now this would be a little bit more noticeable if I did like the darker wash. There's the Cryptic Armor shade, which usually works really well over Ruler Brass, which is what I use on my Sericon Necrons. And then go over it with this Cryptic Armor shade, kind of a highlight or dry brush. Okay, it's not super noticeable, but it does kind of add a little bit of a lighter metallic on the most raised edges. You know, trying things, see what works. That's what it's all about. Okay, now we're going to make this glow. And I'm going to use a bigger brush for most of this, maybe not. Up here is going to be a lot, but these other orbs are kind of smaller, so I'm going to actually stick with my junky brush here. Give that Tesseract glow a good shake. I've tried the makeup brush with mixed results. Yes, I have too. Yeah, like they're really soft, so you have to be kind of prepared for that, and you get kind of like a really powdery, smooth look, which is maybe what you're going for. But I do like the Army Painter ones. They're a little bit more stiff, so you get, you can use that to your advantage, or part of the feel for it. The Citadel one's pretty good too. It's kind of in between the makeup brush and the Army Painter ones, but but the square shape, it works a little bit differently than those, than them being round. So yeah, I'm always kind of interested to try different dry brush types just to kind of see the differences between them and how they work. Because yeah, I do find that the stiffer ones I tend to like the most. They seem to pick up the hard edges really easily. They kind of do what you want them to do. Yeah, flat brush versus the round does tend to make a difference. Yeah. The makeup brush works really well for terrain though, just because it's so big. Although I also use just like big brushes in general. Like something like this. It's just a big cheap craft brush. This is good for dry brushing bases and things like that. I had another really big one that I use for terrain a lot too. I don't know where it is. Wow, look at that glow up. This is what I like about painting Necrons, is the Tesseract glow. Although the old school green plastic tubes were pretty cool too. Not gonna lie. They reminded me of like Legos. Like the Lego Star Wars, their lightsaber pieces. That's what they look like to me. Wow. Get these orbs down here. Huh. Here I thought this terrain wasn't enough to take up a whole stream, but it's already been an hour and a half. I'm still not quite done with the bases over there, so Maybe it'll just be a Necron terrain theme this evening. And like with this stuff, you can make it as glowy as you want. Like up in here, I could have added some glow. Maybe even like along these sides, but I kind of went for less glow on this one. But like on this one, it'd be kind of cool to do glow on the innermost part here and have it like kind of bleeding out. But yeah, I'm kind of, like I said at the start of my stream, picking my battles. Doing enough to get it done and have it look acceptable. And moving on to the next thing. Because I do have a lot of stuff that I want to complete. And I can't make everything look amazing. Because there's only so many hours in the day. It's all about finding that right balance of quality and speed. All right. Well, the obelisks, we'll call them, are done. I'll call them done. I'm happy with these. These will make some nice little terrain pieces. I'm really happy with the glow on these. Just with that little subtle dark green dry brush, it does add quite a bit. Kind of really makes them look like they're glowing a little bit. Plays nicely with that Tesseract. Alright, so I'm going to set these aside, and we're going to go back to our bases. I hope the texture paint is dry. It looks like it's mostly dry. Oh yeah, it's pretty much dry to the touch. Yeah, I think we can work with that. I'm just going to go over that quickly with Nuln Oil. Where are you? Agrax Earthshade. Nuln Oil. Here we go. I'm going to shade up that earth with Nuln Oil. Just to darken up and mix up that brown a little bit. I could use Agrax Earthshade as well, but the Nuln Oil will give me a little bit better contrast since it's a dark brown to begin with. But Agrax is also a good alternative to use. I always shade my texture paints with something. I try not to leave the texture paint by itself on the base. So usually what I do at a bare minimum, I do the texture paint and then I shade it. And then I'll go over it with a small lighter dry brush. And that recipe works very well for bases with the texture paint. And that's pretty much all I really do. I have some little like tufts of grass or something, I'll throw them on there, but a lot of times I'll just leave them with that texture paint and then the wash and dry brush because that looks pretty good on its own. It's detailed enough, but it's not really taken away from the model itself. All right. So we will let those dry. And I'll do a little bit of a dry brush on there. I think to kind of tie it together with that whole Necron theme, I'm going to dry brush that with Elysian green. Kind of like a greenish dust look on that dirt. I think that'll look really cool. I'll just let these dry. And to speed up the process, I have my hair dryer. Dinner is ready. One down, 3 to go. The hair dryer is my favorite non-hobby hobby tool. Okay, that's just about done. Last step, Elysian green on that dirt. Gotta find some dry paper towel. Don't want this to be damp. All right. I'm just gonna flick a little bit of that around. Get that green earth. Yeah, I'm liking the way these are looking. These are turning out quite nice. Something real simple. All right. I do not own one. Hair dryer? Well, head on over to your thrift store. Pick one up for $5. It'll save you hours of painting. Or you could sit there at your painting desk, just doom scrolling on your phone for way longer than you like while you wait for your paint to dry. All right. Here we go. Obelisk A is done. This one's okay. But this one, I'm a huge fan of. I like these. It's very cool. Some simple, easy terrain paint jobs. Painted 2 pieces of terrain and 6 bases, which I'm going to be using as objective markers. Painted these up in about a little over an hour and a half. Very nice. I like them both. Yeah, thank you. I think they turned out pretty good. Something real quick, you know, without stressing. This is kind of a more laid back, easygoing stream. Some quick painting here, but yeah. So I think I'm gonna leave us with this terrain for tonight, and I'll be back next week, Tuesday, painting some more stuff, probably some Tyranids. Yeah, bases as objective markers. Well, the thing that really got me on that is in 10th edition, the rules technically say that the models can't be on the objective. Of course, they dialed that back for the official tournament or match yeah, competitive play, you can be on the objective marker, but if you're using the rules as written on the book, and like narrative stuff, you're not actually allowed to be on the objective. So I always wanted to make some really cool objective markers that are like a thing, you know, like a servo skull or something, you know, a piece of terrain. So having these, it makes it so the model can't actually be on the marker, and they're kind of thematic. So and it works perfectly for the Pariah Nexus, because a big thing of that is collecting blackstone fragments. So having blackstone as the objective markers works perfectly for that. And I just happen to have these that came with the terrain that I bought. So yeah, printed these up, and here we are. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. So yeah, all that said, I'll be wrapping that up for tonight with this terrain. Really happy with this stuff. Looks really cool. Thanks for hanging out, and to anyone else, if you catch this after the stream, I do this every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time every week. Just keep up on the Warhammer, or not the YouTube community tab. I usually post a message if I'm not going to be streaming, or if I am going to be streaming. I usually keep everyone updated there. But yeah, so y'all have a good night, and thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you next time. See ya.